He called me a bloated embarrassment while his friends laughed. I was 7 months pregnant carrying his child. That night he raised his glass like I was invisible, while I stood in the corner humiliated in tears. But what he didn't know was that I would vanish, rebuild from ashes, and one day he would be the one crying, with 100 missed calls that I'd never return. The night started like any other. Camden had invited a few of his friends over to our home for drinks and dinner. I'd been resting more lately, my feet swollen, back aching, belly round with the life growing inside me. I thought maybe tonight we could laugh a little like the old days before the baby. Before things changed. I wore the nicest dress I could still fit into, combed my hair, and even put on a bit of lipstick. It was silly, but I wanted him to look at me and remember I was still the woman he once chased, the one he promised to build a life with. But when I walked into the room with a tray of drinks, waddling slightly because pregnancy does that to you, Camden looked at me and smirked. "Oh look," he said loudly, "the hippo's bringing refreshments." His friends burst out laughing. One even whistled and said, "Damn Cam, what are you feeding her?" I froze. The tray shook in my hands. My heart stung like it had been pierced. I looked at him, waiting, hoping for him to say he was joking. Hoping he'd wrap an arm around me and say, "Don't talk about her like that." Instead he clinked his glass with theirs and added, "She used to be so hot, man. Now look at her. 7 months pregnant and already looking like she's overdue." I didn't cry. Not then. Not in front of them. I placed the tray down slowly, turned around, and walked into our bedroom. My body moved like it was floating through someone else's life. The laughter from the living room still echoed like a haunting melody behind me. I closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, hands resting on my belly. Our baby kicked like it was comforting me. I whispered, "Don't worry, baby. Mama's got you." That night I didn't sleep beside him. I stayed curled on the far end of the bed, away from his scent, away from his cruelty. The next morning, Camden acted like nothing happened. "You're too sensitive," he said, munching on cereal. "They were just jokes. You need to chill, it's not that deep." But it was. It was that deep. The man I once loved had turned into a stranger. A cruel, sarcastic stranger who used my pregnancy as a punchline. Over the next few days his behavior got worse. He stopped checking in on me. Stopped asking if I needed anything. He went out more often. Came back late. Sometimes reeking of perfume I didn't wear. I knew. Deep down I knew. But I said nothing. Because I wasn't ready yet. I started documenting everything, his hours, his words, his expenses. I transferred our shared savings into a new account in my name and hired a discreet attorney. I rented a storage unit nearby and began slowly moving important things there. Documents, baby supplies, my laptop. Camden didn't notice. He was too busy being the life of every party without me. One evening he told me he was going out for a boys' night. I nodded. I had no reaction. I was done reacting. But this time I followed him. I watched from my car as he walked into a bar hand in hand with another woman. Blonde. Slender. Probably didn't know he had a 7 months pregnant girlfriend at home. They laughed. He leaned in. Whispered in her ear. She giggled and kissed his cheek. And when his friends arrived, Camden proudly introduced her as my girl. I didn't cry. I took pictures. When I got home I stared at the ceiling for a long time, my hands resting on my belly. My baby deserved better. I deserved better. The next morning I left a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to Mom's. Don't call. Don't look. Don't lie. I turned off my phone. I stayed with a friend, not my mom. Camden would expect that. My lawyer helped me file for custody, child support, and a formal complaint documenting emotional abuse. Days passed. Camden didn't even notice I was gone. Or maybe he didn't care. Until he did. Until the pictures I had taken ended up in an envelope delivered to his office. Along with a printed custody petition. With my signature on it. That's when the calls started. The phone rang. And again. I watched it light up from across the room. Camden, 67 missed calls. Then 83. Then 100. My baby slept peacefully against my chest, her tiny hand gripping my shirt. I smiled down at her, kissed her forehead and whispered, "He's not worth a single tear of yours." Camden kept calling. Kept texting. "Please talk to me. Where are you? I'm sorry, I didn't mean any of it. Let me fix this." But I never picked up. Not once. Because this is what happens when you make fun of the woman carrying your child. When you reduce her to a joke. When you forget that beneath the stretch marks and swollen ankles is a woman capable of burning your entire world down with silence. And this was only the beginning. The calls kept coming. By the time I reached 143 missed calls, I muted the phone completely. My daughter's peaceful breathing was far more important than any desperate apology Camden could throw at me. I was no longer the woman he mocked. I was the mother of his child. And I was the fire he'd never see coming. Camden's initial messages were frantic and chaotic. Where the hell are you? This isn't funny. Is the baby okay? Why are you doing this? Then they turned manipulative. I didn't mean what I said. I was drunk. You're overreacting. We can talk. You still love me, right? And then finally they turned pathetic. Please come home. I can't do this without you. I miss you. I miss us. Please. Please just talk to me. But it was too late. The man he used to be, the one I fell for, died the night he humiliated me in front of his friends. At my attorney's office we moved quickly. I didn't want to give him time to spin a story. I filed for full custody, citing emotional distress and abandonment during pregnancy. We had dated, not married, something I now considered a blessing. But he was listed as the father, and that gave me leverage and risk. My lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Clarice, looked at me with pride and said, "He doesn't know who he's up against." I stayed hidden. No social media. No mutual contacts. No location tags. The apartment I rented was under a friend's name. Everything was prepaid in cash. I was a ghost. A ghost with a plan. 3 weeks after I vanished, Camden showed up at my mother's house. I watched the doorbell camera from my secure location. He looked like hell. Unshaved. Sleep-deprived. Eyes darting around like he half expected me to appear. My mother answered the door with a look that could freeze time itself. "You've got some nerve showing up here," she said coldly. "Where is she?" Camden begged. "Please. Just let me see her." "You mean the woman you called a hippo? The one you paraded in front of your drunk friends like she was a circus act? You want to see her now?" Camden's lips trembled. "It was a mistake." "No," my mother replied, voice firm. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was deliberate. You humiliated her. And then disappeared with your new girlfriend while she packed up and left without a word." "I didn't mean to disappear, she left me." "She left your disrespect, Camden." And with that she closed the door in his face. I watched him stand on the porch for a moment, head bowed. Then he turned and walked back to his car. Alone. 2 months passed. My daughter, Alara, was born on a cloudy Tuesday afternoon. I didn't call Camden. Didn't text. Didn't give him the privilege of being the first to hold her. He wasn't there during the contractions. He wasn't there when I screamed through labor. He wasn't there when I nearly passed out from blood loss and had to fight for my life while nurses swarmed around me. But I was. I held Alara, kissed her forehead, and promised her 2 things. 1, she would never beg for love. 2, she would never learn the meaning of humiliation through a man's laughter. Camden only found out about the birth when a photo leaked through an extended family member. He sent 23 more messages that night, pleading, "I need to see my daughter. I have a right to be there. Please don't do this. I'll change, I swear. Just give me a chance." So I did. I gave him 1 chance. We scheduled a supervised visitation at a neutral family center. The room was monitored with cameras, and I sat across the glass divider while Camden was brought in. He looked nervous. Sweaty. Like a man facing judgment. He sat down, staring through the glass at me, and whispered, "You look good. I mean, healthy." I didn't answer. I placed Alara gently in her carrier and locked eyes with him. "She's beautiful," he said. "She looks like you." I tilted my head. "She doesn't need you." His face dropped. "You can't keep her from me," he said quickly. "I know I messed up, but I'm her father." I raised an eyebrow. "And what do you plan to offer her, Camden? Emotional neglect? Public shame? Or jokes at her expense too?" I made a mistake. "No," I cut in, voice low and sharp. "You made a choice. Every insult, every drunken laugh, every night you disappeared with another woman. You chose that. I was carrying your child, Camden. And you turned me into a punchline." He leaned closer to the glass. "I'm sorry. I'll do anything. I'll pay support. I'll change. I smiled. I know you will. Over the next weeks, Camden did everything to prove himself. Sent gifts. Filed for shared custody. Tried to show up as the repentant father. But what he didn't know was that everything he did was under scrutiny. Clarice had hired a private investigator. And that new girlfriend? She was pregnant too. 2 months behind me. Camden had lied to her about me. Said I was a crazy ex who refused to move on. We compiled evidence. Messages. Surveillance footage. Financial discrepancies. Camden wasn't just unfit. He was a walking liability. The day of the hearing arrived. Courtroom silent. Camden in a suit sweating bullets. His lawyer read through a prepared statement about him being a reformed man, who regretted his actions, and deserved the chance to co-parent. When it was my turn to speak, I stood. I am not here to destroy him, I said, voice calm and clear. I'm here to protect my daughter. I handed over documents. Photos. Witness reports. Even a transcript of a voicemail Camden accidentally left on my phone, ranting about how he'd take the kid just to make me suffer. The judge reviewed everything. Then ruled in my favor. Full custody. Camden was allowed only supervised visitation, pending psychological evaluation and completion of a parenting course. He didn't look at me as the gavel dropped. But I looked at him. Not with hatred, but with power. As I walked out of the courtroom, Elara in my arms, Camden chased after me. Wait. Please. I'm begging you. I'll change. I'll be better. I turned slowly, eyes ice cold. I'm not doing this for revenge, I said. I'm doing this for justice. He collapsed to his knees on the courthouse steps. And I walked away. Free. Powerful. And untouchable. It didn't end at the courthouse. Men like Camden don't let go quietly. They don't like being defeated, especially not by the very woman they once mocked. He used to laugh at my swollen feet and call me needy. Now, stripped of control, he couldn't stand the silence I left him in. So he did what cowards do best. He started a smear campaign. First came the whispers. She left without warning. She's using the baby to punish him. She's unstable, always was. Then came the post. Fake accounts, vague jabs, screenshots taken out of context. Suddenly I was a manipulative baby mama, trying to destroy a good man's life. A few of Camden's loyal friends chimed in, parroting his lies, resharing his stories like gospel. I didn't respond. Not publicly. Because I had something far more powerful than a rebuttal. I had plans. After Elara's birth, I took a long, honest look at my life. I wasn't just a mother. I was a woman with skills, vision, and a heart that refused to stay broken. I'd once been a marketing strategist for a boutique agency before I went on maternity leave. And during those long nights of nursing and healing, an idea had been quietly growing alongside my daughter. I launched Alaris, a digital branding and empowerment platform for single mothers and women entrepreneurs. The name was a tribute to my daughter. The mission was a tribute to myself. Our tagline? Built from rock bottom. Made for rise. At first it was just a website and a few blog posts. Then came the stories. Women from all walks of life poured into the comment sections. Mothers abandoned in delivery rooms, wives mocked for their weight gain, fiancés cheated on days before their weddings. They weren't just victims. They were warriors in hiding. I offered free branding consultations, personal coaching, social media strategy tips. Within 3 months, the site hit 100,000 subscribers. Sponsors followed. A publisher offered a book deal. I had turned heartbreak into an empire. Meanwhile, Camden stewed in his bitterness. His job, one he landed through a mutual connection, became unstable once the rumors of his harassment spread. A former intern came forward, inspired by my platform, and detailed how Camden had once cornered her at a company event. She had evidence. His company launched an investigation. HR suspended him. His new girlfriend? Gone. She found out about the other women, the surveillance reports, and the custody battle. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Camden tried to reach out again. This time through one of his mutual friends who still had the nerve to message me. He's not doing well. You should talk to him. He's spiraling. I responded with one sentence. Tell him I'm thriving. At a women's leadership conference, I gave a talk titled, The Day He Laughed, and the Day I Rose. I stood in front of 500 women, some pregnant, some broken, all brilliant, and told them how a man's laughter became the ignition to my fire. I spoke of humiliation, of labor without love, of silence after betrayal. But most of all I spoke of power, of choosing to walk away, of reclaiming your name, of building something so magnificent, it makes the people who once belittled you invisible in comparison. The video of my speech went viral. 10 million views in 3 days. Comments flooded in. I needed this. This made me cry. Thank you for standing up for us all. I was no longer just a woman Camden once knew. I was a movement. That's when Camden hit rock bottom. He created a YouTube video. Sat in front of his camera, eyes red, voice shaking. The title read, "My Side of the Story, What Really Happened with My Ex." He tried to paint me as controlling, distant, moody. He even hinted that Alara might not be his. But here's the problem with liars. They forget they're not the only ones who can speak. Within hours, women from our shared past flooded the comments. He did the same thing to me. He humiliated me at a party too. He's always been like this. His video flopped. The ratio of dislikes to likes was laughable. Brands that sponsored him pulled out. And I received a cease and desist from him. Camden accused me of defaming his character, claiming my speeches and platform damaged his livelihood. My lawyer's response was short and beautiful. Your client's reputation is self-inflicted. Our client's truth is documented, legal, and backed by federal protection under free speech and whistleblower laws. Proceed at your own risk. He didn't proceed. One day as I picked Alara up from daycare, a woman stopped me outside. She was in her late 20s, tired eyes, toddler in tow. "Are you Serena from Alaris?" she asked shyly. "I am." He swallowed. "Your story saved my life. I left my boyfriend after he pushed me during an argument while I was pregnant. I saw your video. I read your blog. I realized I wasn't alone." I blinked back, tears. "You're never alone." He hugged me. Her little boy waved at Alara, who giggled in return. And in that moment I realized, Camden may have tried to erase me, but I had rewritten myself into something eternal. A few weeks later, Camden tried one last stunt. He filed for joint custody again, claiming he had changed. We went to court. He came with a fresh haircut, clean suit, lawyer at his side. I came with a portfolio. I submitted a full report of Alara's life, her schedule, health, milestones, and financial security. I included therapy assessments that confirmed she was thriving, supported, emotionally stable. Then I submitted Camden's online behavior, his video, the failed cease and desist, screenshots of his attempts to bait me through social media, and the list of harassment complaints against him. When the judge turned to Camden's side, he simply asked, "Do you dispute any of this?" Camden stayed silent. The judge denied his petition. Permanently. As I walked out of the courtroom, Alara's tiny hand in mine, I felt no joy in his destruction. Only peace. I didn't ruin Camden. He did that all on his own. I just chose not to save him. And that, perhaps, was the greatest revenge of all. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can give a desperate man is hope. After losing full custody and having his lies dismantled in court, Camden disappeared from my life. For a while. And honestly, I thought it was over. I had built my company into a national name. Alara was thriving. I was being interviewed on podcasts, morning shows, even featured in a business magazine under Women Who Rebuilt from the Ashes. I had everything Camden once told me I'd never achieve without him. But men like him don't vanish. They wait. And when the world starts celebrating your rise, they sneak in like shadows, ready to snatch back whatever dignity they feel you stole. It started with a message from a reporter. "Hi Serena, we're doing a feature on digital entrepreneurs and came across some anonymous allegations about Alaris. Wanted to give you a chance to respond before we publish." My heart sank. I clicked the attached document. It was a typed statement claiming I had lied about my story for fame. That I'd exaggerated the abuse, manipulated custody, used Alara as a pawn to destroy a good man's career. It didn't take a genius to trace it back. Camden. He couldn't touch me legally, financially, or emotionally, so now he was trying to gut my reputation. But I didn't panic. Because what he didn't know was that I'd already prepared for this exact move. Months ago, Clarice, My attorney told me, prepare for the smear. It's a last-ditch tool of the week. So when it comes, you'll have a weapon ready. So I built a digital vault. Every document, every email, every interaction with Camden, from text to audio recordings to therapy logs. I had sworn statements from witnesses, timestamped social media screenshots, and even character references from my OB/GYN and daycare providers. I didn't just prepare for war. I outdated his playbook. Before the article dropped, I sent the journalist a full, clean response with proof. The piece that ran, titled, "She Rose from Betrayal and Built an Empire While They Threw Stones." It detailed not only my story but also the harassment women in business face from bitter exes, online trolls, and patriarchal backlash. Camden's anonymous slander became part of my spotlight. He tried to ruin me. And instead, I went viral again. Camden wasn't done. One evening, I picked Alara up from daycare and found a note taped to the window of my car. "She deserves to know her father. One day she'll hate you for keeping her from me." I stood in that parking lot, note in one hand, Alara in the other, and breathed in slowly. No anger. No fear. Just a cold, resolute calm. Because I had just made a decision. It was time to bury this, for good. I called Clarice and initiated the final legal phase. A permanent restraining order. We filed with records of the parking lot incident, the smear campaign, and a new discovery. Camden had tried to hack into one of my company accounts. He had sent phishing emails to staff, disguised as HR, requesting internal files. We traced it directly to his IP address. So when he received the court summons this time, he didn't show. Because deep down he knew. It was over. Meanwhile, Alaris grew into more than a business. It became a movement. I launched a mentorship program, The Second Rise, for women re-entering the workforce after emotional or financial devastation. Within 6 months, it had 200 graduates. Our events were sold out. Our partnerships expanded into wellness, education, and even legal advocacy. We gave women tools, not pity. And one crisp autumn evening, as I stood backstage at a sold-out summit in San Diego, I held Alara's tiny hand and whispered, "Look how far we've come, baby." She clapped as I walked onto the stage. Not a single person there knew Camden's name. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. But the final blow came unexpectedly. A former mutual friend messaged me out of the blue. "I thought you should know, Camden got fired. He was caught leaking confidential data to a competitor. Word is, he was trying to sabotage a client who used your platform." I didn't reply. I simply saved the message, filed it, and kept walking forward. Because it wasn't my job to ruin Camden. He did that himself. One lie, one attack, one desperate move at a time. All I did was refuse to bleed for him anymore. Weeks later, I was invited to speak at a televised Women's Business Awards ceremony. I wore a sleek black dress, my hair tied high, Alara seated proudly in the front row beside my mom. They called my name. As I walked to the stage, applause erupted. I accepted the award, held the mic, and took a long breath before speaking. 2 years ago, I stood in a living room 7 months pregnant while the man I loved made a joke out of me. That night, I swore I'd never let anyone define my worth again. Today I stand here, not just as a mother or a CEO, but as a woman who rebuilt herself when the world said she couldn't. And to every woman watching, who's ever been mocked, minimized, or dismissed, you are more than what they tried to reduce you to. You are the storm. You are the rise. And they will never be ready for what you become. The crowd rose. Tears. Applause. Power. And in that moment, I wasn't Serena the pregnant girl who got left. I was Serena, founder, mother, builder, survivor, storm. 2 years had passed since the day he laughed at me. Since the moment I stood in that living room, belly round, heart broken, and soul shattering beneath the sound of their laughter. I still remember how the glass clinked in his hand as he raised a toast, not to celebrate me but to mock me. And now here I was, on the cover of Forbes Women, holding Alara's hand as we walked into our own headquarters. 5 floors in the heart of the city, offices glowing with ambition, walls breathing resilience. I had turned humiliation into power, betrayal into purpose. And Camden? Camden had become the echo of a name I no longer flinched at. Until that message came. It was short, simple, desperate. "Camden, please. Just one meeting. I'm not asking to fix things. I just want to look you in the eye and apologize." I know I don't deserve it. But I'll never find peace if I don't try. I stared at the message for a long time. My first instinct was to delete it. But something stopped me. Not anger. Not curiosity. Closure? No, not for me. I didn't need closure from a man I had already outgrown. I had rebuilt a life where his name had no weight. But maybe, letting him see what he lost, what he never deserved, was the final piece of justice. So I agreed. We met at a public cafe. No cameras, no entourage, no Alara. Just me and a man who once held my heart and crushed it like it was disposable. He arrived 10 minutes early. I arrived 15 minutes late. He stood when I walked in, his eyes wide, his body leaner, aged by the consequences of his own cruelty. Serena, he breathed. I sat without a word. He stared at me like he didn't recognize who I had become. My posture was different. My eyes sharper. I wasn't the woman who cried behind bedroom doors or made excuses for his silence. I was unshakable now. I didn't expect you to actually come, he said. I'm not here for you, I replied. I'm here for the truth. He swallowed. I don't know where to start. Then start with the truth, I said. Not for me, but for the man you've become. He looked down. I ruined everything, he said. I thought power came from control. From being louder. From being the one who had the last word, the last laugh. I didn't realize how small I actually was, until I saw you without me. I didn't respond. I let him sit in it. He continued, I lost my job. I lost everyone. And I don't blame you. You didn't destroy me, Serena. I did that myself. He looked up at me. I saw the speech you gave at the summit, he said quietly. The one about how your silence became power. That killed me. Not because it hurt, but because it was the truth. You didn't scream. You didn't curse me out. You just walked away. And you never looked back. I looked forward, I corrected. There's a difference. He nodded. And Alara? She's perfect, I said, voice calm. Happy. Safe. And she doesn't know you. That was your choice. Not mine. Pain flickered in his eyes, but I didn't soften. Not anymore. He leaned forward, his hands trembling slightly. I don't want to take anything from you. I just wanted to say sorry. Not because I expect forgiveness, but because I need to own it. You deserved better. You always did. I looked at him, then really looked at him. This wasn't a man seeking redemption. This was a man standing in the wreckage he created, realizing the empire I built had risen from the ashes of his disrespect. I accept your apology, I said. He blinked. But that doesn't mean you get anything from me, I continued. Not my time. Not my sympathy. Not even my anger. You lost the right to my emotions when you chose to weaponize my pregnancy for a laugh. He nodded slowly, eyes glassy. Can I see a picture of her? He asked. I pulled out my phone, opened a photo of Alara in her ballet costume, beaming with her gap-toothed smile, and slid it across the table. He stared at it for a long time, then whispered, She looks so much like you. She's nothing like you, I said softly. And I thank God every day for that. He returned the phone. I don't expect to see her. I just wanted to say goodbye. I say, I'm proud of you. Even if I was too stupid to see your worth when it mattered. I stood up, gathering my bag. I didn't become this woman despite you, Camden, I said. I became her because you showed me who I never wanted to be near again. He nodded. And just like that, I walked away. That night, I tucked Alara into bed. She was 7 now, growing too fast, too bold, too bright. She held my hand and asked, Mommy, why don't I have a daddy like the other kids? I paused, brushing her curls back gently. Because not everyone who helps make a baby is meant to be a parent, sweetheart, I said. But you have more love than most kids ever dream of. And you have me. Always. She smiled sleepily. Then I'm lucky. Oh baby. I'm the lucky one. 3 months later, I received a handwritten letter in the mail. From Camden. Serena. Thank you for letting me see what strength looks like. I know I'm a footnote in your story and I deserve that. But I just want you to know I see you now. I see the mother. The leader. The woman I was too small to stand beside. You didn't just survive me. You became untouchable. Camden. I burned the letter in my fireplace. Not out of spite. But as a ceremony. A final cleansing. He was no longer my chapter. Not even my sentence. He was a flicker of ash beneath the story I would tell my daughter. Of courage, of silence turned power, of dignity guarded like a crown. Years later, Alaris stood beside me as I cut the ribbon at the launch of Alaris Global, an international expansion into 5 countries, now helping hundreds of thousands of women rise after betrayal. The cameras flashed. The press cheered. And in that moment I whispered, "This is what justice looks like." And no one, no man, no past, no cruelty, could ever take that away. The end.